What's up everyone, before the video starts I just thought I'd do some quick disclaimers. This video is sort of aimed towards experienced people, so if you don't understand the Adobe Photoshop software too much, feel free to go and look up some tutorials on the basics first before coming to this video. But if that is you, don't worry, I don't go into too much today, so even if you're not the best at Photoshop, you're probably still going to be able to follow this tutorial pretty well. Today I'll be making the pretty basic Sonic the Hedgehog logo, the one you see for all the toys or just the websites, you know, the basics logo that you see for the marketing and everything. And it's also worth mentioning before I continue with the video and start creating the logo, I really do want to thank you all for the support for the channel. I know my content isn't amazing, it really is just gameplay of me playing Sonic fan games and publishing them to YouTube. There's not too much behind them, but somehow I've managed to gather over 1,000 of you, and I really do appreciate the ones that come back to watch all the videos I upload. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoy the tutorial. Alright, so once you have Photoshop open and ready, it's really important to make sure that your files are all organized inside of your document. For example, here I have a background and references folder. Inside this folder I simply have the logo of choice that we'll be creating today, which, as mentioned before, it's just the standard Sonic the Hedgehog logo they use in all of the marketing and advertising. And then I have a simple grey logo here too, which is, it could be white, but I've had it to a nice grey colour just so everything's a bit more easier on my eyes. It's just preference. So yeah, I would recommend having a nice little setup here just to keep things nice and organised while creating your logo. And once you're comfortable and you think everything is ready, it's now actually time to start creating the logo. So we'll jump right into it by starting with the Sonic text. So to begin with the Sonic text, we're going to start with adding some text, right? Fairly simple. To do this, either press T on your keyboard, like this, or just press this icon down here. And then we're going to left click and simply type in Sonic. Now, you may realize that the text looks a little bit different to the logo. That's because we still need to use our fonts and set them up. To do this, press Ctrl A or just drag select the text. And we're going to go over to here where the fonts are, and we're going to look for and select Nice Sega Sonic Regular. It looks something like this. Now don't worry if you don't have any of the fonts installed, because all the links for them will be in the description. I'll be using two today, which is the Sonic font and the Impact font, which is used for the Hedgehog text. Okay, so now we have our Sonic text. You may notice that the letters here are more close together compared to the logo. As you can see, the N and the I, they're more further apart in the reference image compared to here. So we're going to be fixing that manually, and to do that, you're going to first want to go over to your layers down here. You're going to want to right click the Sonic text and click convert to shape down here. What this does is it just converts it to a Photoshop shape, which allows us to do all sorts of things. I'm going to be using it specifically to move around individual letters and also to add the stroke to our text. So to actually fix the spacing issue, we're going to go over to this mouse icon over here, and we're going to click the direct selection tool. Once you've done that, you're going to want to shift select the I and the C, then you're going to press Ctrl T to transform, and whilst holding shift you're just going to drag it along just a smidge. And if you're not happy with the results, you're more than welcome to just balance these out a little bit, just so everything's equally spaced. And once you're happy with the results, you now have your Sonic text ready to begin applying gradients and strokes. So we're going to begin with adding some strokes to our Sonic text, which is going to be more of a dark orange fading into a nice saturated yellow. To do this, we're going to double click into our layer, and we're going to look for this down here that says gradient overlay. We're going to click this checkbox, and it's going to look something like this. So the colours are normally defaulted to black and white, or one of the presets that Adobe features in their software. And we're simply going to click onto this gradient box here, which opens up the gradient editor, and we're going to just click this black box down here. And before I continue, make sure that you're aware of where the colours are. For example, black is at the top of the letters here, which means we're going to be grabbing the orange at the top. And to do this, you just press the colour box down here, which opens up the colour picker, and select the top pixels of the Sonic text, which gives us our dark orange colour. And then we're going to repeat the process for the white one down here, which gives us the nice saturated yellow I talked about before. And just like that, we're done. It's a really simple process, there's not too much behind it. Photoshop tries to make everything as easy as possible for everybody. So the next step is going to be adding our stroke. To do this, as long as the image is a shape, you'll be able to do this. We're going to go down to the mouse icon again as before, but now we're going to click the path selection tool. Once you've done this, you'll notice some cool little buttons up here, which include like the fill and the stroke. We're going to be focused on the stroke today, so make sure you have a colour set. For now it's just going to be black, and we're going to use a slider just to drag it out a little bit until we have something we like. So already I think this is pretty good. It's pretty accurate to this one down here, how thick it is. And we're going to do something we did before, which is apply an ingredient. To do that, you just open up the text, make sure you have the stroke at the top. We're going to click this box and then click this third icon here. This opens up the gradient editor once again. This time it does look slightly different, but don't be alarmed, it will just work almost the exact same way. And what we're going to do is just select the darkest colour from the logo's stroke and then pick the lightest one. So it's literally the same process as adding the gradient from before, just a little bit different. And once that's done, you're left with a pretty nice result. Now the logo is starting to really come together and it's looking a lot nicer. So I'm going to be adding on an extra step, which isn't something you see in any of the Sonic logos, which is adding the weird sort of like glow effect that has like it's inside of the center of the Sonic text. Now I'm not 100% sure why they do this, but it does really improve the looks of the logo, so I'll be teaching you how to do that today, just so you know for when you're making your own logos. So to create the cool glow, we're going to go over to the shapes and add an eclipse. This is basically just a circle, so we're going to click in and create our circle. Now mine's already set up, but all you would need to do is like stretch it and drag it out, and you're going to make sure in the settings that it has no fill and no stroke, so make sure it's set to 0 pixels. Once you've done this, you're going to go back into the layer styles and you're going to add an outer glow, which is down here for me. Now these settings are already pretty good for me, so feel free to like copy how I have mine set up. And now what you want to do is just position it to somewhere you're happy with, and we're going to go down here and press create clipping mask. Now you might notice that it's not appearing yet. That's because the Sonic text down here still has filters applied to it. So what we're going to do for now is duplicate the layer by pressing Ctrl J, and then we're going to click this one up here and then click rasterize layer style. Now we're going to create the clipping mask one more time, and as you can see it is now like sort of only appearing inside of the text. What you can do once you've done that is just position it to somewhere you're happy with. So I'm fairly happy with how this looks. I don't really feel I need to make too many adjustments to it. Once you're happy with how it looks, there is one more step you can try if you'd like. In this little menu over here, you're able to change the overlay settings, which all that does is sort of changes how it appears against different colours. Using overlay is normally the way to go. It makes it a lot more hidden and harder to see. Now that isn't a problem, it just makes the shine look more realistic as it's actually on the logo. So yeah, that's how you do the cool glowy thingy. Alright, so moving on to the next step. As long as you have your layer duplicated, it's now time to create the next stroke. This is done in a very similar process, so this time I would set the stroke to a solid colour by clicking this icon up here, and then you click this little colour icon to open up the colour picker again, and you're just going to click the nice blue background that's behind the Sonic text. Once you've done that, feel free just to drag out the stroke to a sort of size you're comfortable with. I'm going to stop it right here, and there we go. Our Sonic text is really beginning to look like the logo, and with that cool glow it even looks a little bit better. So the final step for our Sonic text is going to be sort of hiding these little circles that get left by the strokes. To do that, simply rasterize the layer style and open up the paintbrush tool. It's over here. Once you've done that, hold Alt and click down to grab the colour of the blue, and it really is as simple as just patching out and drawing in where you left the gaps. And there we go. So there's that. The Sonic text is now technically done for now, and it's time to move on to the Hedgehog text. Okay, so to begin creating the Hedgehog text, I'm going to start off by creating the cool little red rectangle that they have in the logo. To do this, I'm just going to go down to my shapes again and click the rectangle tool, and then I'm just going to drag out like a kind of samey representation of this one. It doesn't have to be identical for now, as we're going to edit it later. And what we're going to do is going to go over to this fill icon over here and go to gradients, and we're going to do a similar process to before where we're just kind of copying the colours over just like that. Fairly simple, you should all understand that by now, and we're just going to put it there for now. It doesn't really matter, it can just go anywhere for now. Next step is getting the text in, so we're actually going to open our tab tool up again, and we're just going to type in the hedgehog. Once you've done that, you can also set the colour to white, and you're going to want to set the font to impact regular, which will be linked in the description. Once you've done that, there's one more step before we can convert it to a shape, and that is making the spacing a little bigger. As you can see, this is quite tight and this is quite loose, where each individual letter is like further apart. So to fix that, we're going to select all of our text, and we're going to go over to the properties over here, and we're going to drag up this little icon that says VA. So hover your mouse over the little icon click down and just drag, and as you can see it is spacing out our text. So I wouldn't take it too far, I try and make it as accurate to this as possible. To me this seems a little bit further than usual, so I'm going to bring it down a bit. Once you're happy with how it looks, you can now convert it to a shape just like before, and you're going to scale it up to try and fit it in the box. Now another thing I'd mention is that it actually does look a bit more squished in the logo too, so to do that simply press Alt and Shift and then just squish it down. If you can't seem to get it to fit properly, don't worry, it's not the text, it's the rectangle. So to do that, simply follow what I was doing before and mess with the shape of the rectangle to fit with the text. And there we go, the logo is almost complete. We're going to finish up by adding a slight detail to the hedgehog text. As you can see down here, there's kind of like a black colour behind the white text. What this is a drop shadow, and it's really easy to do. So we're just going to double click into our hedgehog text, and we're going to go and find ourselves the drop shadow. Now mine's already luckily set up for me, so feel free just to copy these settings here. And once you've done that, all we need to do now is give it this big puffy white stroke. To do this, you're actually going to have to use the layer setting stroke, as it has this nice smooth bevel going around each corner. So we're going to grab our Sonic text and we're just going to position it more in line with the hedgehog text, and we're going to do the exact same thing for this over here. And once you've done that, this is the more risky part, but as long as you're happy with everything you've done, you can select all of your text and you're going to be merging it all together. So you right click and click merge layers. Once that's done, you'll have the logo sort of like as a full image now. You're going to double click inside of it and you're going to press and look for stroke. Feel free to copy these settings, but it's going to look different for everyone. And once that's done, we're going to do the same thing as before, filling out the little gaps where the stroke's left. And there we go, the logo is practically done. Feel free to make any slight adjustments to it like I am right now, just to make it look a little bit more accurate. But there we go, there is our logo complete. It looks really nice and accurate to the one down here, and it looks, you know, it looks fairly nice. But yeah, as you can see, nice, easy tutorial. It wasn't that hard, and once you sort of understand the basics, you're able to take that knowledge and create really nice logos, just like me. So I hope you all learned something from this, and I do apologise if sometimes I sound like I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm not following any script, I just really felt like making a tutorial video for some reason, and that's what I'm doing now. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I'd like to see some logos that you create. Thank you for watching.